old.
Yeah,
like, you have no idea.
A bunch of my friends on TikTok started calling me Unk, and I'm like, I really don't need to be Unk. And I'm like, is it derogatory? And like, if you don't know, then yes.
You do have like an uncle.
Thank you, an uncle's aesthetic. Well, I am an
I mean,
uncle too. I
it's
think
better than daddy because then it's just gonna get
yeah, exactly. That's
weird.
a runaway train. Yeah,
Didn't you like just get married? Like
I've been married for 2 years.
Okay.
And I have
take your
10
time.
nieces and nephews.
Okay, so maybe just
So big Unk status. Definitely made it.
That's a lot of nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess I lied about them being done with the windows, so we're back to that. So let's just hop in. Hillary, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for coming on for a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
Make sure everything's recording on my end. You look wonderful in the
Thank
frame. You face the right direction they asked you to.
just-
No one else looks where I tell them to.
Well, I have face dysmorphia, so I'm very specific on how my face is being shown.
What is face dysmorphia?
I made it up.
Okay. It's a hilarious thing where it's like, I don't believe that that's how I look sometimes, you know?
That's the thing, is when you look at yourself like in footage, you're like, do I really look like that? But you don't actually, because it's flipped usually. Or I don't know, it's been proven scientifically that when you look in the mirror, you're seeing a different, I don't know.
Well, there's all kind of things that the brain is filling in, but I think there's something that's so spot on that as musicians or people that are in the public eye, like, I don't get to control the awful pictures that are taken of me and posted places. Like, if I'm making stank face, if I pop a blood vessel, who gives a fuck? That's just what I'm stuck with. So when I'm with friends and someone's like, let me see it before you walk away and say that's the picture, I'm like, what am I going to do about it? Like, my wife can be particular, like, no, let's take it again. I'm like, honey, there's nothing I'm going to do in the next 30 seconds that's going to change how I exist in this moment.
Right.
She's like, it's your eyebrows. And I'm like, well, then let's touch them up in the bathroom. I don't know.
Bless her, yeah.
She's an angel, but
Yeah.
it's hard to control all the aspects of how you are perceived.
I know.
At any given time.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot too, because looking back on that footage from Monthly Muse, I was like, I don't know. I think I would have like worn something different or like put my hair in a different way. But like, that's not what you should be focused on, you know? So yeah, I think we all are our own worst critics, especially when it comes to like the physical nature of how we're representing ourselves visually and how that ties into the aesthetic of the music. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things that I thought was most interesting in your performance, since like we were just talking about with the technical side of this, it's like, I can make all these little changes and no one gives a fuck. And it's just how it's going to be until the end of time. But when I watched back the performance, like, I was sitting 5 feet from you the whole time, but watching it from that angle, the way that you started to grow more comfortable in the set by the end, especially with how odd the writer's round can be. Like, you never get to settle into the set. You always hand it off and you settle in that way, and it's very conversational. So the way that your expression kind of blossoms by the end of it versus like, cue it, let's do this thing. You know, how did you feel going from what you thought the show would be before it started and what you were looking at after?
Yeah. I mean, I think I played a couple writers' rounds in Nashville when I was down there about 10 years ago. And I'm sure you've experienced writer rounds in Nashville, right? I mean, it's a little different, but it's just the intensity of the room is really up there because it's, you know, a bunch of songwriters watching songwriters on stage. But I think that has to do with why it felt so energetic in there, is because it is start and stop, you're right. But every song is building that energy. And I noticed that too. I noticed I was pretty stiff the first time. And after the first song, like, the nerves kind of just fell away and I felt very present. Maybe it was the THC seltzers, but you know.
Bang! Bring back the bevies. How dare they?
I'm
sign
so
the petition.
about
State
that.
of Ohio, sign the petition.
Yeah.
It's just...
Seriously, because that's what makes that place, you know, so one of the things that makes it so great, and the state-of-the-art sound system. But
yes. Well, they do a nice job of that, but it's like you got to give reason for everybody to go out to, you know, the venues and have a good time however they want to have a good time. Like, no one bats an eye if you walk in with a coffee, but it's hard to walk in with a THC beverage to a venue that doesn't do that. So we finally hit this threshold, and now they're going to back it up. And Nashville ain't getting that anytime soon.
No.
How long did you live in Nashville?
So I felt like we definitely need to go over the geography of what happened in my 20s because I was, let's just say,
Did you swallow an air tag to document?
You know, it's funny. I mean, this is the longest I've ever stayed in one place in my entire life, except for New York because my parents are upstate, 2 hours north of the city, and I was only in Nashville for 6 months. So basically, what happened was, I moved to New York. I graduated Berklee College of Music in 2011. Stayed in Boston for a year because a lot of my friends hadn't graduated yet. Worked at Trader Joe's. And I raised some money for a Kickstarter for an album, which was just when like crowdfunding had started, right? So I didn't actually think that was going to happen. But I finished the album before I moved to New York, and I was there for a couple of years, waited tables, did all the things. But there was this relationship that kept falling apart, and every time we would break up, I would move. So the first time we broke up, I moved to Nashville. I literally had one friend there, and she was there, and she was like, "You got to come down." I think I'd visited a couple times. I had a few female musician friends from college, and I was not prepared for... I think I had extreme culture shock because I'm an East Coast girl. So I was really just like blown away by how that town works because so much of it is very stuck in the past. I mean, they're trying to make moves to make it more inclusive, but I was only there for 6 months. And the funny thing is I was at the time, genre wise, the album that I had made a few years prior was pretty folky. It was really cool though. I did get to have live string players on that, which was totally worth including in the budget.
Did you do that in Nashville? Or did you do that in New York?
I did that in Boston.
Boston, okay.
Yeah.
So did you have folks from school play on the project?
Yeah.
What a cool...
There's some big names on there that, people have really like Anna Stromer. She's a viola player, and she's played with everyone from like Kendrick to, I mean, every time I go on her Instagram, I'm like, okay, she's killing it. She is like the viola player.
Yeah. It's a cool marker of like the last time y'all are together in a certain way too, to wrap it up with a project that has people that's not like, so many people you have to do a capstone or some bullshit like that to wrap things up. It's like, no, just to do your album and to ask your friends or the professionals you want, and not that they're not professional, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's your peers, and then there's...
You get to pay them, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What did you specialize in at Berklee?
So my principal was voice, and then songwriting was my major.
Cool.
Because I knew it was going to be the easiest. And to be honest, like... I was coming from an all-girls boarding school in Connecticut. I wanted to party a little bit.
That is,
you know what I mean?
Such an aesthetic. All-girls boarding school in Connecticut.
We can get into it for sure. I told you we were gonna have to go back.
How aren't you
a wizard?
And I'm
only 22,
yet?
So it's like
I'm still just so shook. You might be the only person I know that's done the boarding school thing. Like, at what grade does that start?
So it started in 9th grade. And finished in senior year. So I could have
opt in?
Did I opt in? Yeah, I did not misbehave and get sent away. It was really just, although, you know, I might as well have been, but no, the public school in my parents' area wasn't great. And they wanted a good education for me. And there were some private schools in closer that I could have been a day student at. But Miss Porter's was just the best education.
Yeah. I like that you say a day student. Now it sounds like it's kind of derogatory. Do you think less of day students?
Well, they were definitely having much better of a time than we were.
Okay. It's like I'm
after prom, like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to know.
My wife was homeschooled, so I always wanted to say something derogatory about like bus riders or something like that, like saying that's like mean, but she never does, and we'll get there eventually.
She probably gets, you know, crap from people assuming what homeschooling was like too. So you know what I mean? Like,
but she was Kentucky Catholic homeschooled, you know, like it's a very specific blend, you know.
Okay. I mean, I'm not against homeschooling. I think my parents just wanted the best education for me, and they come from, like, my mom comes from a line of writers. My dad decided he wanted to write about sports when he was in 5th grade. So he became a professional sports writer. So it was a very creative household. And with that comes, it was important for me to be educated well. And I think that they really pulled through that way, because it's not like I grew up with a ton of money. Like, they really had to, break their backs a bit. Also, my dad got fired from GQ when I went to Berkeley, and they had like a balance on my high school, and they were like, they had to get on a payment plan, and like all this stuff happened. And then my grandmother passed away at 18. So there was a lot going on. That switch from Connecticut to Boston, and all of a sudden I had not set foot in that city, because I had auditioned in New York, and I didn't think I was going to get in, actually. But yeah, having never set foot in Boston until I got to the dorm, I was excited to be in culture, because Connecticut, it's true about some things they say about that place.
So when you first discovered your voice as a kid and like a love for songwriting, did it always have like an academic approach, or is that something that you did because you wanted to pursue it at that level?
That's a great question. I think at the time I was still pretty confused about if I wanted to do it professionally. Like, I had been gigging probably since around the time that you started, like 13, and I had gotten into a couple liberal arts colleges, even with some scholarship offers. I thought I wanted to be a writer and not be a songwriter. But
explain that really quick. So a writer in the sense that you wanted to do fiction, nonfiction, like a classical sense. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had an opportunity to intern at Vanity Fair because of my parents' connection to Condé Nast. And I did like an internship for Elle Girl magazine.
What is that?
It was like a teen fashion magazine, a subsidiary of Elle, which is, I'm sure your wife is familiar. It's like Vogue, but less classy, basically.
Okay, cool.
But I'm gonna get in trouble for putting them there. But
it's okay.
They're long gone. They stopped making them, But I spent 2 weeks in the offices in New York, in the sweltering heat, running around doing the most minute things in the fashion department, and I could tell right away that I was not an office girly. So,
are you glad with how
have been? Yeah.
Are you glad with how it looks now that you didn't go that route? There's like the fact that there's so many less writing jobs and there's no more physical print, and it's just like I feel like that industry more than almost anything has eroded. Like your dad's
really
part of the
has.
last generation. Like wrote for GQ,
truly.
What a cool thing to be able to drop on your high school friends. Like my dad writes for GQ. Like
I've definitely dropped that card in places when I remember like the last marketing agency I worked for. One of the chief officer CEOs was a big Fish fan, and I was like, well, my dad smoked weed with Fish.
That's awesome.
And wrote about them a couple times, once for like TV Guide, which is so funny. But yeah, I try not to like drop that too often. But I think one of the things about it growing up was to come with him on these road trips and like for his interviews. And the guy he really knows how to interview. And I think being around that was like very interesting to me, because of the stories. And like, I think that's what songwriting is and why it's so appealing to me, is just the character in some of these stories. Like I remember we road trip down to Florida once. I got like the worst flu of my life. Still had a great time. But it was like this retired race car driver turned pastor. And I was just like, even as like a 7-year-old or something, I was like, that seems, well, I didn't know what niche meant at the time, but you know what I mean? Like what a story that he had. And it was really fun to grow up around that creative energy. So
yeah, well, imagine as a parent too, like the process of trying to help mold your kids into who they're best suited to be.
Right.
It can be very you can feel very capable of that when all you ever do is find people's special isms and try to make it larger than life, and trying to encourage that in your own child is such a fascinating thing.
So true. So true.
Good person to write a bio, you know.
Yeah. But I think like you probably got a lot of your business chops from watching your dad, you know, growing up, right?
Unfortunately, I was made to be a suit, but I just chose this, you know. There is something about that where when you watch the way your parents navigate the world, you start to grab a lot of those isms. And it's weird to think, is that nature versus nurture? It's like,
I know.
Especially to be away from your folks during these formative years of 9th grade through senior year.
That is correct. Yeah. So by the time I got to Berkeley, I went from being like the girl locked in the piano rooms all day, like not socializing at all, to just the most social butterfly in the world, just, you know, screaming Paramore with my roommate in the alleyways. Like it was a really fun time because it was also right before, you know, the music industry was, what was this, like 2009, I think is when I went. So yeah, it seems like a long time ago, but yeah, those were formative years of a lot of things changing, and I was really starting to take the songwriting more seriously.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a fascinating world too around social media then. Like,
right.
What's the first platform you got on when you're doing this crowdfunding?
It was Kickstarter.
Okay, so you're on Kickstarter, but is there like supplemental platforms? Is there Facebook? Is there a MySpace that you're working on? Like, what's your primary?
Yeah, I was on both of those, and I think a lot of it was like my parents and friends sharing the link. So, and there was still, Kickstarter was still new, but it was getting some traction. So I think I had like a lot of organic SEO, to be honest. Like, yeah. So, and I think that's what a big problem is that's going on in the creative entrepreneurial world is there's just so much on the internet now. You know, before it was like the sea of content wasn't as big, so it was a little easier to make a splash, I think, you know.
Yeah, well, I think even as folks that are well aware of what it's like to make content and then to consume content, like, you have to interpret yourself as both sides of the thing and then start to analyze your own habits. It's like,
it's exhausting.
How often do I find something I love and go a step deeper with it?
Right.
It's like, no, typically I just scroll on to the next thing, you know, and I just, like everybody else, I just kind of burn my attention span over and over again.
Yeah.
And to try to dig in deeper really takes an intentional effort, and it's hard to think about how you guide a cold new fan into the world of being a close supporter to you that would put $50 on the line for an album, that would show up to a gig and buy some merch.
Yeah. And in this economy, $50 to put towards art is a lot. You know what I mean? So yeah.
But you know, very similar to what you're saying about like the going to the Muse. When you're in Nashville and it's just songwriters playing for the songwriters. Like there's not much of a besides tourism. There's not much of like a local listener basis.
Right.
Well, I think you can say the same issue exists in Cincinnati, but if I'm learning anything, it's how to better appreciate folks that are at the forefront of what it means to be a great supporter of the arts. Whether it's Mike and Joe Ellen showing up with those chocolate peanut butter no bake cookies, or my friend Susan that's always there for me, and a lot of the folks that watch this program, like there are exceptional human beings that will, you know, go to bat for you and for your art, and making sure that you really give it the time and effort to love them the way that they love you is a part of the new generation of...
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also, there's a slight imposter syndrome that comes with that because you're like, they appreciate what I'm doing, so why don't I appreciate it more too? You know what I mean? But anyway,
no, I think that's a great note. Like at this stage in your writing career, you know, it's been such a big part of you since you were how old? When's your first song?
It was the day after 8th grade when I put piano and vocals together for the first time. The day after the first day of 8th grade, or the day of, I went home and like raced to the piano and I wrote a song called "There Are Days When," and I still remember it. It was pretty basic, but that was also having my great grandfather's Steinway in the house was pretty much an integral part of the story because I would just play it all the time. I was like obsessed with it. It was the only thing I would do. And, you know, my brother didn't want to play with me. He would rather want to build Legos and read about dinosaurs. But
no one likes their sister at that age, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I have an older sister. I'm like, if she wasn't fighting me, we shouldn't be in the room. You know, it's just like, that's kind of our existence.
Yeah, sibling dynamics. Yeah.
When did that piano get moved in the house? Was it in his home? Did you watch him play it for a long time, or did you not really get to have that chance?
So I did watch him play growing up, but we used to live way upstate by Oneonta in New York.
What the hell is that?
And Oneonta, it's
sounds like a fancy gas station. Oneonta?
Oneonta, yeah.
Okay.
And we had it in the house, and we didn't have cable. I kind of grew up like an Amish family because we we didn't have cable, and we ate everything from the backyard if my mom grew it or was slaughtered down the road. So like, you know, my parents encouraged us to run around and use our brains, and so the piano was there, and it was an organic way to pass the time. And I started piano lessons when I was 7. Luckily, I had really good teachers. I don't know about you, but growing up the entire time, I mean, there were some professors at Berklee that I kind of didn't really vibe with as much as I expected. But other than that, in terms of like individual lessons, all the piano teachers I ever had were very, you asked earlier and I didn't answer this, but they implemented theory into my learning pretty early.
When did you start lessons?
When I was 7.
Wow.
Yeah. But I started playing when I was like 4.
And so what part of like the theory is getting integrated at that age? Is it like these progressions move in this way? It's
exactly.
like, okay.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember from like a high school theory class was the first time that someone lays out to you like 5 progressions that make sense and why you can substitute these chord options. And I feel like without that, as a songwriter, I wouldn't realize how much it is like playing with Legos. You know, it's like you can go with this block here to underline that word in a different way. So at 7 years old, kind of getting those things underhand and being able to rationalize what you're taking in. Like you're such a sponge for the music you love at that point.
Absolutely. I saw your charts framed over there, by the way.
Yeah. That was the first time that I was ever in Nashville watching someone do the number system. Because before that, I was just...
That's the only place I do it.
But it makes a lot of sense now when I listen to like the jazz guys in my life, like, and they start throwing those out quickly. I'm like, fuck, I really don't understand this thing.
Yeah, because they've already scanned the whole thing before they started playing, right? So,
yeah. Do you know Justin Dawson?
No.
Justin Dawson's a wonderful bass player in town. And he was on this show, and he was making comments like, everything I learned relates to something I've already learned. And it's just, it's kind of deconstructing those puzzles over time. And in my mind, really, the benefit of learning the theory is to be able to make assumptions that right or wrong are still very much like the guiding principles of why you ended up somewhere. You know, I can assume that the next chord is going to be this.
Right.
But if it's not, I can feel that tension one way or the other. Versus if you're always just playing by ear, you never learn how to rationally make assumptions and then defy those assumptions.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been around musicians who have absolutely no theory experience and rely completely on the ear, and musicians who have been formally trained. So I think the issue with me was I relied too much on my ear. So I would just, you know, listen to a recording and I could read music. But yeah, I think, you know, with Berklee, that was one of the reasons why I actually finished, was because this is just a statistic that I heard, and I'm almost sure it's true because after the first semester, 80% of the freshman class fails the harmony course, which is required of all majors, which means that only 20% of the people who nailed the audition and actually were admitted and went, like, could not keep up with the curriculum because they didn't have the theory experience. And I'm not saying that was like why I lasted so long, because in the sea of people, like in those songwriting classes, like, I mean, Adrienne Linker was in one of mine, and they became, you know, went on to be Big Thief and are like one of the most admired folk artists. But the company I was in, I was like, I wasn't like the bottom of the barrel, but I also wasn't like the most talented person there.
Yeah, you don't want
and
to be
I
on the other
wasn't
side of that
taking it as
spectrum.
seriously as I probably could have.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
I
so
didn't make any of the auditions, the showcased auditions. I was on like partial scholarship, like a minute amount, like a few thousand a semester.
Yeah.
And I had to keep a C+ average to keep it. So I was like,
it's a good motivator.
Yeah.
It's interesting to find out what like the weed out class is in any freshman program. It's like whether it's going to be organic chemistry for folks that are going to the medical world, or it's going to be harmony. So like when you got in there,
what
like,
was your major at Xavier?
I know I have a marketing degree. I would never take no. If you had to put chemistry in front of me, I would no, I can't. My wife taught herself organic chemistry.
Really?
She's that type of nerd.
Wow.
That's why I love that woman.
That's hot. Yeah.
She's weird.
I love it.
Why was harmony so difficult for people? Is it just like, do you think it's the element of reading it on sheet music, and is it like counterpoint? Like, what is that?
It is actually counterpoint is a lot of it. You know what? It's funny because it was really dependent on the professor that was assigned to you, because if you had a jazz harmony teacher, you'd be learning jazz harmony. If you had a classical harmony teacher, then you'd be learning classical, like counterpoint and stuff like that. So
what really is counterpoint?
I think it has, I should know this. It has to do with the movement of two or more parts. And there's certain rules, like my favorite one that I absolutely never abided by was you can't have more than 1/3 in a chord, because when you stack thirds, it doesn't sound as stable as a 1 or a 5, basically.
I've never heard it described as stability, but that makes sense. Like in my mind, it's like, on a guitar, like you take the most demanding note of the chord, the one that's really going to tell you what's going on, and odds are they're not in tune with each other. Like that's the acoustic guitar player life. It's like if you're playing 2/3, they're going to fucking rub against each other and ruin your day.
It's very apparent on a guitar arrangement, for sure.
And then like all the voice leading things that someone can lay out to you, like nothing is sexier than breaking down Beach Boy vocals.
Oh my gosh.
If you really understand that stuff, and I don't, but watching someone explain it, it's magical.
Yeah.
And that kid is LSD, and it's like, why was he so smart? So in what you do now, and it's interesting to me for you to say like your first album is very folk centric versus now what you do is so much in like the synth pop kind of a world.
Yeah.
Do you feel more enabled to make these orchestrations kind of elaborate and dense in that way, like you were kind of educated to be? Or do you miss having single vocal lines and just an acoustic underneath?
You're breaking out all the great questions, by the way. Sometimes I do miss the acoustic vibes. I don't sit down and play nearly as much as I used to. But in the past 5 to 6 years, I have really dug into the whole of the electronic production. And I think I'd be ready to pull back and go and incorporate all of it, moving forward, because, I was thinking how I kind of want to start playing like cover shows again too, because it's just really fun. Like, you have a great time at Jeff Ruby's and like you get to play, whatever you want with your friends. It's fun. So I have been thinking about acoustic. Yeah. Or like maybe starting with covers. But I think right now, also listening back and on the Monthly Muse is there might be too much going on now. But I have a lot of work to do on mixing, like learning how to mix correctly, and it's really hard for me to focus on that.
Yeah. Well, I think you can always listen back and find things that you'd like to change. I do think there's a right way to mix in terms of like a very sound rationale, but like if you get where you want to go, you get where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the way that songs live different lives in different stages of production.
Yeah.
Like what I found really interesting about listening to the set is there's moments where I was like, it sounds like you wrote this when you were in the DAW, because the idea wouldn't feel as fulfilled without certain layers. And then there's other moments where it's like, it could just be you on a piano. And it does have that same
Absolutely.
Acoustic kind of centric, even if it has a synth underneath of it. So how much of it do you write in front of the computer with the production already kind of full steam ahead?
That, you nailed it, honestly. I would say these days it usually starts in the DAW or a voice memo. Yeah.
And as you pull one to the other, like, okay, we're going to take a voice memo, we're going to go into the DAW. Do you start with the soundscapes, or do you kind of lay the entire vocal out and then let other things get informed by it?
That's a great question. I think that it really depends. I have never used a template before. I approach every song as its own, like you said, soundscape. So sometimes, I'll just go into Arturia and look for a synth sound, and that'll be the beginning of it.
What is Arturia? Is that just it's a plug-in bass?
Yeah, it's connected to my Keylab, and there's just hundreds of synth sounds on there. I use the microKORG at Monthly Muse, which is analog, as you know.
That shocked me because all the sounds I'm hearing, I was like, this does not sound like a microKORG right now. And I was just like, where the fuck is she pulling this stuff from?
Yeah, the microKORG has I've had that for a while, and I'm still learning how to use it because it's its own beast. But
so you start off kind of in the box using a MIDI board and plugins.
Correct.
Is the voice memo already in there at that point? Or?
No, I usually just listen to it. Sometimes I do pull it in. But for the most part, I just recorded on an SM57 sitting at my desk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the market for a new mic, so but that's my demo vocal mic, and then I'll go re-record them somewhere else if I feel the need. But yeah, I maybe that process will change moving forward. The busier I get, and also something that I think I'd like to talk to you about is co-writing, because I've never really been able to co-write and be fully comfortable. You know what I mean? Because it's the same streamlined process with you we were talking about before, where it's just like, when you're so hands-on and you want to produce and write and sing and perform all of your own stuff, you kind of get into this bubble of your own, and you forget that there are other people that you can delegate to or write with. But how do you feel about co-writing, like, and how much have you done it? Because I feel like we could get something kind of cool going on in Cincinnati. I had an idea that I'm still kind of brewing, but some kind of songwriter club, basically.
Yeah.
Where,
There's a couple of camps I see doing that really well. Like, there's some folks that have come from, like, Noah Smith's Crooner Circus. Like Lydia Shea has been very much involved in pulling a bunch of different pockets of songwriters together and doing a nice job of that.
Yeah.
Personally, it's not something that I lean on very much. And I sometimes I wonder why, but oftentimes I just tell myself, like, what you're comfortable with is what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I love the task of sitting down with a friend and them saying, I have an idea, and I assist in taking that idea from being, just neurons firing off to being something tangible that we can play with.
Right.
And then kind of going from there. So I've co-written some EPs with friends and worked on projects in that way. When it comes to my own material, the place where I really like a co-writer to come in is like, let me get the scratch vocal and the guitar in place, and like, say we have the meat and potatoes of production.
Right.
Nothing's really
full-fledged. Yeah.
It's not decorated, but like it's structurally there.
Right.
And then I just want to stand in front of a mic. We'll have the lyric sheet up, and we're gonna talk shit about lines as we go. If this could be stronger, let's cross it, go for something better, and just fighting once the thing has already existed for a while, and I feel like I'm kind of getting to know the song itself. Because if I get stopped from 0% to 60%, it's gone. It's completely gone, and I hate feeling like
same.
Yeah,
because it comes out really quickly. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
When you're just catching an idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to rationalize why it works to me, to you, when I just want to get it here and then we'll go over those things.
Right.
Versus some writers do really well constantly living in the center of the Venn diagram. Just like you give a line, I give a line, you give a line, I give.
Right.
That's a really cool thing. I don't think I've really worked on that skill very well. But when I get someone that, someone like has your skill set, if you came in and you said, I got most of this song idea, but I want to work out, some bits of the arrangement. I want to work on vocals. Like that's where I feel very comfortable. Just you could do better here, but I love this line. I love what you're implying here. Can we tie it back at this point?
Yeah.
So I think that's more of a production role than it is a co-writer role at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I am not good at rewriting. I mean,
it's hard not to be married.
What's that?
It's hard not to be married to it.
Yeah, like you said, you're like basically catching lightning in a bottle. And I don't rewrite that often. I'm just such an organic girly when it comes to the process. But in terms of co-writing on that subject is, so if we want to backtrack a little bit to Nashville, and then basically I got back together with the guy in New York. And I got super homesick. I was like, "Can you come pick me up? Like, I don't like it here anymore." He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." He hadn't like, completely written me off just yet. That happened later. But
if he was happy to drive down to Nashville and pick you up, I mean, like there was a level of commitment still there. That's for sure.
Yeah, as committed as 24-year-olds can be.
Put your diesel on the line, brother. You know what I'm saying? This is love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then the second time we broke, so I moved back to New York. I had gotten a job actually waiting tables at City Winery, and it had just opened. The Nashville location had just opened. And that was really cool because I got to see live music and wait tables and meet these musicians backstage. I remember like the first week I started, it was like the CMA Awards or something. And like the first week I'm in town, like Faith Hill and, Brad Paisley are walking through the doors. I'm like, okay, This town is a lot smaller than I realized.
What was the most distracting act you ever had to wait tables in front of?
Oh.
Somewhere like you're listening to the music. You're like, what the fuck? You want bread? You want wine? Like, sorry, I just forgot you existed because this song's on,
Ah, man. Macy Gray was one where I was just like, wow, like her band killed. Lucinda Williams, I kind of grew up with her and I could not believe, my dad was like floored that I got to see her live because I don't think he's ever seen her live. And my uncle was friends with her for a brief time back in their partying days, and I just could not believe her voice. It was like I'd never heard a voice like that in my entire life. So,
are you a country music person, like deep down inside?
Matt, I'm trying. I'm really trying to get into it, but I'm more of like folk country. Like I don't know. It's something. It's like rap and hip hop. Like I have a very limited knowledge base when it comes to music and music history. Like I don't actually know that much like stuff. Like this is admirable is that you you love the classics like funk wise and you're really good at covers. And I think that I would imagine that learning, the lengthy music history and the story behind some of these songs that you perform during your cover sets just makes you a better musician, really.
Well, there is an interesting education, like what are the barroom classics that you have to learn? What are the wedding band classics you have to like there's like a somewhat academic side of that.
Oh yeah, you have like an extensive performing.
I wouldn't say that, but I've gotten better at reading chord charts, and if you're just gonna put it in front of me now, I have to do it. But actually going back and appreciating like isms of like what was the song? Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes. Like listen to a song like that and trying to think of where technology was at versus how this production's going on. And there's certain things where it's like 80s cheese has a certain sonic aesthetic to it.
I love the 80s though. It's like, they had it good, man. There's so much good stuff coming out,
But then appreciating the way that like technology kind of had a bottleneck to it, and like some stuff became cheesy, some stuff became classic in a really cool way.
Yeah.
But I don't go back and listen to the records enough. I think I appreciate you thinking that, but and I think all musicians are guilty of. It's hard to listen as much as you would like to listen
through an entire album.
Yes, and oftentimes. I don't want to listen casually. I want to listen. You know, if I'm going to put something on, I'd like to sit there.
Yeah.
I'd like to put some
Meditate
time
into
into it. Yeah. I mean, put some headphones on and really appreciate the fact that someone's put this time in.
Yeah.
Because the things that make a vocal performance special should not be lost on me in 3.5 minutes.
No, that's
But
so true.
it's easy just to let it kind of fly by you at that point.
Absolutely.
By the time
Active
that you
listening,
left, by the time you left Nashville, were you completely over country again?
Well, you know what's funny is I started writing electronic music when I got down there. So that was, I had barely recorded more than me and a guitar or piano on a GarageBand file. So I started making electronic stuff, and it was very bedroom pop. But I find that ironic that when I got down there, I thought I wanted to do the country folk thing. And, now it's a lot more diverse genre-wise down there than it was back in 2014. There's a lot more pop and electronic. But yeah, I saw the competition that was happening in that town, and I saw a lot of my female friends who were in the industry really struggling to make their talent known in a room of, older men who wrote jingles in the 70s. So, there are some issues with that. I felt like my friend Emma White, she's still down there and she's absolutely slaying. She also has a podcast, and she does something similar to you where you integrate your music brand into other content creation. But yeah, I think it was a combination of having been on the East Coast my whole life and just having never been in the South before. I was just confused and homesick, and I was 24. I didn't really know. It was a chaotic time because I didn't really know what kind of musician or artist I wanted to be, and I knew that I gigged a couple times while I was down there, but it was only then that I really started to get into the production when I moved back to New York. I think I was there for another 6 months. Then said ex and I broke up again. And this time I drove across the country to LA. So I think I was experiencing some levels of rebellion that were coming through in ways that I didn't want to feel tied down. And I had a couple friends in LA. That was the cool thing about going to Berkeley, was that we all kind of dispersed to New York, LA, and Nashville. And so you kind of always have a friend to crash with when you're in those places. But mind you, I had only had my license for a year. So I never had to drive because I was living in New York and Boston. So I drove across the country by myself, had a lot of Red Bull. My dad was graduating with his master's in teaching in Pennsylvania. So I drove down, saw his ceremony, and just I stopped in Boulder for a few days because I had a friend there. Smoked a lot of weed, as you want to do after you've been in a car for 3 days straight, Yeah. So, and it was a great time. Yeah, it was so fun. It's so beautiful there, and I loved it. And then I got to LA, and that was when I literally locked myself in a closet and forced myself to learn how to record vocals in a way that, with a ribbon mic and a MacBook Air and a Scarlett, interface. That was really when the production side of things took off, and I also happened to move into a house of musicians, and one of them, who I'm still good friends with to this day, was working at East West Studios as a studio manager and got me in there for free studio time. Speaking of the Beach Boys, and Thriller was also mixed at East West. So I was LA received me well. And Keith is so nice for having opened those doors to me. But I vibed with LA a lot more. And still to this day, I want to, be a bi-city person and own in Cincinnati and go to LA when it's too cold here for a couple months. But I loved it there. I just, to be in a city of ambitious entertainers in 2015, like there'll never be another time like that. It's just, it was right before people were on their phones 24/7 and they were still paying attention to live shows. And I was writing a lot with my friend Garrett, who had built a studio out of his garage, and we just had the best time. And, I was just having a blast. And it was about a year in. Also, mind you, I couldn't get hired as a server anywhere for some reason. I guess I just wasn't like pretty enough, or it just wasn't working out. So that was also the beginning of City Hearts marketing, because my mom needed a marketing manager for her wine store that she was managing in Hudson Valley, where they still are. And I needed income. So I did social media marketing for her. And I started emailing a lot of music blogs with these demos that I was making. And I wasn't really getting as many bites, because, when you're the artist and you're directly reaching out to, blogs, when blogs, oh my God, were a thing and still are, but they were everything back then. I had to find a loophole because I wasn't getting bites. So those two things were integral in the making of City Hearts marketing. And so, yeah, I was getting a little money from that, and the cost of living was still relatively low. I think my rent was like $600 a month. And so I began to email blogs under my new PR moniker. My client Barleaux is, that was a loophole. And I've heard people doing that in several different realms of industries, and it actually, there's a psychology to it, but I found this tape label, this cassette label that wanted to put out my record, and I was managing myself, and things were pretty good, actually. I felt really creatively fulfilled. I was in the studio most nights, so I felt like I was really pouring out all of that angst that I had experienced in the first half of my 20s, and coming more of into an identity as Barleaux, and how figuring out how to compartmentalize who is Hillary and who's Barleaux. You know what I mean? So
when did you decide that you need to have an artist moniker, and how did you decide on Barleaux?
Well, it's my middle name legally. It's my grandfather, my great grandfather on my mom's side. I think it was his last name. And if I'm not mistaken, he's actually from Ohio, which is really funny. That's full circle. But I was Hillary Richmond for a while, which is, my legal name, but it sounds a little stiff. And then I was Hillary Barleaux. And then I had a friend from Berkeley pull me aside at a party once, and he was like, "You just got to go full on Barleaux." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." And he was very marketing savvy, so that stuck with me. And then, and then I think the first music that I released strictly under Barleaux was around the time I was in LA. And I filmed a low budget music video with my friend Adam, who I met on Tinder, and we ended up being really good friends. So yeah, LA was great. And there were also a lot of things happening, because my friend hooked me up with this industry audition for The Voice, and I was supposed to have the audition in LA, and I got in a really bad car crash the week before I was supposed to. And luckily I was okay, physically, but still mentally dealing with, the impact. And I went to a psychic before I was already had made up my mind to take the total loss check and move back to New York. I was like, I don't want to be in a car anymore, because you get really sick of driving very quickly. And getting in car accidents in LA is it happens all the time because you're driving so much, right? So I went to the psychic, and she was like, you need to go to that audition. Don't move back to New York. You need to stay in LA. And I mean, she said some other stuff too, but she was literally around the corner on Sunset from my apartment. And it's funny how people, like, when they're going through extreme identity crises, like, they go to psychics, because it's probably like the opposite of what you should do, you know? But I didn't take her advice, and I rescheduled the industry audition in New York, and I completely bombed it. Like, I've never played so badly in my entire life. Like, I've never been, like, off key singing before, but I didn't get any sleep the night before. I was crashing at a friend's in Manhattan, and you know, I walked into the room, and there's 8 producers and like 700 cameras, and there's always going to be a part of me that wonders, like, how that LA audition will go, but I don't think that's my bread and butter, you know. I think actually also back, I mean, they're still very relevant, like reality singing competition shows, but back then I think it had a little more weight. And I think there was a lot of lessons to happen within that short period of time, right? Because when I moved back to New York for the 3rd time in my 20s, I was like, okay, so you need to figure out where you want to be. And then I was like, how can I do something that will, like, require me to be, like, stay in New York for more than a year? So I applied to grad school, and I got in, and it was a marketing degree, and it kept me in New York for the duration of the program for the most part. I mean, I did like 2 remote semesters, but it was the right program for me. I was able to hone in on the marketing because I had never gone the internship route or the agency route. I'd never worked in an office. We already decided that that wasn't the right experience for me. And I was waiting tables at a club in the Lower East Side called Pianos. So
I played pianos once.
Did you really?
Yeah, it has a weird little stage in the background. Like,
yeah.
Weird little white building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a wild time because you got like bridge and tunnel people coming in from Long Island and New Jersey on the weekends, and they're getting absolutely smashed. So, but again, I mean, if you wait tables in a venue and you're a musician, it's kind of amazing, right? Because, you know, you get to see so many, and there were two stages and 1 DJ booth, and so there was always something going on.
Where's the second stage there?
It's upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had played a couple times before I started working there, but yeah, it was just it was a great experience. I met a lot of really cool people, and yeah, so that is pretty much the back end of the history of how everything, you know, now that I'm like talking it out to you more in depth, I understand. And this is something that's really easy to be taken for granted, is all those things that have happened up until now. And of course, like in your 30s, when you get in your 30s, you like crave more stability, and you can't just like recklessly move around the country the whole time. And COVID happened, obviously, but all those things have all played a part in, you know, the story of where I got to, how I got to what I sound like sonically. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I forget that I actually have been producing for 10 years, which is wild. I mean, but you know, some people, they pick it up and they're like, they're a complete expert in like 3 months. But I think it's taken me a long time to know what I'm looking for, especially vocally, you know. And your voice changes like as you get older, but I think it's in its prime right now for sure.
What would you say are some of the biggest tips for someone that's trying to learn how to record their own voice for the first time, to capture like who they are with limited resources? What did you learn when you first got to LA in that?
I learned that MacBook Air speakers are actually pretty good.
Okay, so having a set of speakers that are honest on the way back, like having something that's kind of neutral?
Yeah. And also, people oversing into their mic when they're recording a ton. So you have to learn how to get that right reverberation and the placement of the microphone too. But yeah, I don't even think I had monitors. I think I had a really good pair of Audio Technicas. So I'm glad I hopped on the Audio Technica boat pretty early on. because I just like all their products.
That is a great starter kit, though, where it's like a good pair of headphones, like some Audio Technicas, a 57, and a Focusrite. It's like, you really can't go wrong with that.
No.
I like the tip, too, of like learning the right way to shape your voice around the mic is important, because 90% of the time, this direct on is not going to be it.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to...
Totally.
It's hard to get an honest idea of what you sound like, because the voice is always coming the opposite. It's going the opposite direction of where you are.
Right.
It's like the first time you put in ears and you try to play like that, you know, your perception of your voice as the one that's putting it through the vacuum of space is very different than what it sounds like, honestly.
Absolutely. And then learning how to EQ your voice specifically. Like, I've worked with a lot of mixing engineers and producers, and I'm grateful for that, because I'm always trying to learn in a session. I'm like, oh, what are you putting in my voice? Like, where are you EQing the frequencies so that, you know, I can sound good. I think that process of getting the vocal sound down is underlooked at, because, you know, you could have barely any talent when it comes to singing, and if you're a good producer, then you could, you know, we see it all the time with top 40. But I think, I guess if you've been playing live for a while, like, you know, performing vocally is so different than recording. It's literally the opposite, you know, scientifically. So I think maybe that's why a lot of vocalists don't know how to record themselves, is because they're so used to playing live, possibly. Yeah.
Well, it's great to refine your voice doing it live, but I think the recording process, it's much more about vision. You know, when you look at the folks that have taken like T-Pain and the use of autotune, like how many people told him that was wrong? It's like, no, this was just his vision. You know, and unfortunately, you saw it as a tool, he saw it as an effect, and it worked out for him. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that feel odd about that, but it's just, the truth of the matter is, once you open that up, you're sculpting for whatever you want. It's the only opinion that matters.
True. But that's like sonic branding, right? Because he made a easily identifiable, distinguished sound that if somebody heard it, they're like, oh, that's definitely T-Pain, you know?
And I think there's so many new artists now where it's like, to me, recording's always been about like clean capture. I was listening to a great podcast. I think they were talking about Asia, the Steely Dan album, and just like how perfect everything sounds, how well recorded everything is, and how clean it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's not the aesthetic; it's the mess that makes us so attracted to certain things. Totally. So giving yourself the chance to play with limited resources before you go into the world of, I have 50 reverbs. It's like, start with one reverb and start by fucking it up, you know?
Yeah.
When I watched my wife also does some photography, watching her, instead of taking a slider and going 5, you know, 10, it's just go to 100% of both sides of the spectrum. Do it the wrong way first, and then decide what you want to get from that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And also, you know, one other career high for me was when I was 16, I was playing a cycling festival in my hometown, and Shania Twain's old guitarist just like happened to catch my set, and he was like, oh, let's make an EP. Like, and I was like, okay. And we went to Tony Bennett's grandson's studio in New Jersey, and I tracked like a 5-song EP, and like, I was so nervous. Like, I still get really nervous going into recording studios, because I guess what I wanted to bring out in the story was the vocal delivery when you're recording. For me, I personally prefer to be in a room like this, or like a bedroom or a kitchen, you know, because I get performance anxiety when I go to a fancy recording studio and track vocals. So I think, you know, down the line, I can work on that. But these days with technology, you don't really need to, you know, it's like actors when they do voiceover work, like most of them have their own setups for shows like Family Guy, and they just like have somebody teach them how to record and send the file, you know? So, and that affects your performance, because what happens when you're nervous with your vocals is that your diaphragm freezes up. So you don't get the airflow going through correctly, and it affects the tone and the pitch. So it's like, that's why it's important to be relaxed when it comes to vocals.
Yeah.
Because it's your body. It's not an instrument. It is an instrument. It's not, physical.
Yeah.
Separate entity. Yeah.
You touched on something that I think is so important for everybody that's in an artistic pursuit or in any type of pursuit. Like, there's so many moments where you think this is the defining moment. This is the fulcrum for the change that I've always dreamed of. It's right. It's this, and it has to be right. And demanding that of yourself at any point in time only undermines the experience of the thing. If it is going to be life-changing, it should feel like it's any other day. It's just your best. Yeah. Because when you start to put all this weight on, I'm trying out for The Voice. This is my dream job. This is the only time I'm ever going to chance to get that thing.
Yeah.
The pursuit of that thing has never made anybody their happiest. You train so like right. Every day is going to be the big chance to be your best, and you just do it like that. Yeah. When you look at the greats of anything, it's whether it's boxing or it's your favorite artist, the reason that moment was special is because they've done it so many times that it's just another fucking day. Yeah. Whether there's an audience or there's nobody. Like, I had a great show last night for 4 people, okay? Me and my duo partner almost outnumbered the audience. But
I love playing to 4 people, though. I mean,
there's an intimacy to that. There's a chance.
Oh, yeah.
And we can overhype these moments in our lives so much that we forget to just live them out and move on to the next. Because when you're counting on something to be what tips the scale, it turns out that it's the most moot and forgettable part of your life.
Totally.
Unless you go to a psychic after, and then it might fuck up your psychology for a little bit because this hippie intent told you that this was the moment and that you blew it. And it turns out she wanted another $25 for an extra 30 minutes. And it's like, well, am I getting a massage? Like,
right.
If they're charging you by the minute, it's probably CD work or it's a lawyer. And you're going to the lawyer because you had some kind of hippie intent.
CD work.
100%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I also... I think by nature, even though so much has happened at 36 years old, I think by nature I'm still an optimist. And I do believe that there are multiple ways to get to the same place, right? Because if I hadn't moved around that much, I don't think I would know what I would be looking for in a city, And maybe I crashed I didn't crash it. Somebody crashed into me when I was turning on a left way.
Was it Dave Matthews? Yes, nailed it. Fuck. That was shameful. I'm so sorry, but yes.
That was good. That was really good.
Fuck yeah.
But bump. So yeah, I think that by default, by nature, if you work hard at something and you put the 10,000 hours in like we've done, you're gonna eventually get to where you're supposed to be, but it might not be, the Grammys, but it could be receiving small royalty checks that are gonna support you. So it's like, sure, there is a part of me in 16-year-old Hillary who wishes that she had the pop star career that she was looking for, but I don't think that would have worked out. I think I would have been a total mess. I could have, definitely not been in the same place mental health wise. I mean, we haven't brushed on it, but I got diagnosed with ADHD halfway through grad school. And once I got my diagnosis and you put anyone in a room for 8 hours and have to memorize 56 faces to names. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody would not do that.
Everyone would fail that.
But I think getting the diagnosis and learning, that my brain just operates a little differently and how sometimes that shows up in different ways, socially, attention-wise. Once I was able to start understanding, that and kind of use it and embrace it, then I was able to understand that I do get overstimulated and that I need to be careful about not getting overstimulated. And, I think if I had gotten all the things I'd wanted earlier on with exposure, then I don't know if I would have handled that as well as if I get a song in a commercial next year. You know what I mean? Like, I think you just you have all these ideas about how things are supposed to go in a creative career. And honestly, it's like hitting a point on an exponential graph, because we're in this place right now where people are getting excited about art after COVID, and we're playing an integral role in our community in a city that's not so big that it's hard to make a splash, but it's also not so small that, you have to worry about running into people. You know what I mean? So it's just so I think I really am a firm believer that, like the first relationship that's the most important is your relationship with your art, because you have to believe in it, and you have to massage it and make sure that you and your art are good, like that you have a solid relationship, And I think that's why things are coming together for me right now, is I'm not taking it for granted as much, It's just such a powerful, emotional catharsis. Like to be able to write a song about life experiences, not a lot of people have that,
Yeah, well, I think everyone's looking for that, and there's a warm feeling in this idea, like you are enough for your art. You don't need the next tool. You don't need someone else's approval. Just the fact that
we got these things. I mean,
the fact that it was enough for you means it is enough in and of itself, and
like playing to 4 people. I mean.
Exactly.
By the end of the night, you have 4 new friends,
Yeah, exactly. If you do it right.
If you do it right.
Yeah. My friend, as we wrap things up today, is there anything else that you'd like to promote specifically?
Yes. I have been working on an EP of demos, and I have the artwork. And that will probably be dropping either May or June.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then we're both playing North by Northside, correct? Where are you at for that?
We are. Yeah. I mean, has the lineup been announced?
I don't know that the lineup's been announced. No.
I haven't. Aaron hasn't told me what stage I'm on, but
okay, cool.
I'm so excited for that. I have a lot to prepare for.
It's a very special event for the city. So.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so fun. Have you played before?
No, this is my first time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Aaron is really
your marketing firm.
Yes, City Hearts Marketing. That's always happening. I'm developing a series of courses for online purchase and consumption, and I'm continuing to work with local businesses on website development, and that kind of stuff. It holds its own creative weight, but it's also a nice difference than the music stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's just like using a different paintbrush, basically. And I think if you have a creative mind, you're going to be good at anything that you set your brain to creatively, So,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not good at drawing, but I can design a Squarespace site. You know what I mean?
Damn straight, Skip.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for making the time today, Hillary. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. You had some really great questions, so...
It's a fun time to do it. Friends, I'll catch you soon. Thanks for tuning in the Weekly Wave. Peace.